It's time for spelling analysis. Are you ready? Let's spell some really interesting words together. All right, the first word is sharp. Be careful, the knife is sharp. Go ahead and say sharp. Let's sound it out. Sh, R, P. This is the phonogram sh that you may use at the beginning of the word and at the end of the syllable. Go ahead and write sharp. Be sure you sound it out so that I can hear you. Excellent. Help me to write it. Sh, R, P. And how do we mark it? Well, underline the sh and the R. Let's read it. Sharp, sharp. The next word is garden. The flowers in the garden are beautiful. Garden. Go ahead and say garden. How many syllables? 2. We will say to spell garden. What will we say to spell? Garden. Let's sound it out. The first syllable is gar. G-R. The second syllable is den. D-E-N. Go ahead and write garden. Sounding it out. Good. And help me to write it. The first syllable is gar. G-R. The second syllable is den. D-E-N. And how will we mark it? Well, underline the R. Let's read it. G-R-D-E-N. Garden. The next word is quite. We have quite a few left. Quite. Go ahead and say quite. Let's sound it out. Qu-I-T. Silent final E. Go ahead and write quite. Sounding it out. Good. And now help me to write it. Qu-I-T. Silent final E. Now, how will we mark it? Well, underline the qu. And what sound of I, I, E, ya do you hear? That's right, you hear the long sound. And why did it say it's long sound? The vowel said it's long sound because of the E. Let's read it. Qu-I-T, quite. Question, which word do you have if you take off the E? Quit. With the E, quite. Without the E, quit. With it, quite. The next word is few. We have quite a few left. Few. Go ahead and say few. Let's sound it out. You. Use an oo, you. Okay? Go ahead and write it. Good. And help me to write it. You. And how will we mark it? We'll underline the U. What sound of ooh, you did we use? The second. So we'll put a 2 over it. Let's read it. You. Few. Question, why did I not write it like this? You're right. English words do not end in I, U, V, or J. So we couldn't spell it like this. We had to use ooh, you that we may use at the end of English words. The next word is loudly. She shouted loudly so we could hear her. Go ahead and say loudly. How many syllables in loudly? 2. We will say to spell loudly. What will we say to spell? Loudly. Let's sound it out. The first syllable is loud. Ow. Use an ow, o, d. The second syllable is li. E. Use an I, E. Go ahead and write loudly. Sounding it out as you write it. Good. Good. Help me to write it. The first syllable is loud. Ow, d. The second syllable is li. E. How will we mark it? We'll underline the ow and we'll put a 4 over the E. You're right. I, E said its fourth sound. And why? Because it usually says it sound E at the end of a multi-syllable word. Let's read it. Ow, d, E. Loudly. The next word is noise. Did you hear that strange noise? Go ahead and say noise. Let's sound it out. Oi, that you may not use at the end of English words. Z, this is a z. Silent final E. Go ahead and write noise. Good. And now help me to write it. N, oi, z. Silent final E. How do we mark it? We'll underline the oi. And what sound of z do you hear? The second. And we'll double underline the silent final E. So, why do we have a silent final E in noise? You're right, I hear one noise, and if it ended in an S, it might look like a plural word. So it's there to keep words that end in S from looking plural. Let's read it. N-oi-z, noise. The next word is frightened. I saw a mouse and I felt frightened. Go ahead and say frightened. How many syllables in frightened? 2. Now I have a question. What if I said, I will frighten her? And then I frightened her. Do you hear how these are related? One is in the present, I frighten, and one is in the past, I frightened. So when you hear that d at the end of frightened, how do you think it's spelled? You're right, it's an ed-t, the past tense ending. Well, we will say to spell fright and. What will we say to spell? Fright and. Let's sound it out. The first syllable is fright. I. Did you see that? T. The second syllable is end. D. Yes, it's ed-t, the past tense ending. And you can hear that in the meaning of frightened. Go ahead and write frightened. Sound it out as you write it. Good. Help me to write it. The first syllable is fright. I, t. The second syllable is end. D. How will we mark it? We'll underline the I. And why did I use ed-t to spell d? That's right, because it's in the past tense. I frightened yesterday. I frightened her. Let's read it. Frightened. Very good. The last word is candle. Let's put a candle on the cake. Go ahead and say candle. How many syllables in candle? 2. We will say to spell can-dle. What will we say to spell? Can-dle. Let's sound it out. The first syllable is can. K. Use a k. S. A-n. The second syllable is dull. D-ul. Silent final E. Go ahead and write can-dle. I like how you're sounding it out. And now help me to write it. The first syllable is can. K-a-n. The second syllable is dull. D-ul. Silent final E. Why do we have a silent final E in candle? You're right. Every syllable must have a vowel. And without this, there'd be no vowel. Let's read it. K-a-n-d-ul. Candle. Great work today.
Combining the science of reading with the joy of learning. Learn more at foundations.logicoфenglish.com.